Observe the great, incessant dance of time, that cosmic waltz that sweeps us all along, whether we are willing or reluctant partners. On one side of the hall, beneath the glittering chandelier of social convention, we see the blinding glow of fireworks tearing through the night, the sharp, festive clink of glasses meeting in a toast to life, the noisy, almost desperate celebration of yet another complete revolution around the sun. This is the stage of existence, a spotlighted platform where joy is not just a feeling, but a duty, a socially mandated performance. Happiness here is a grand spectacle, with a script, costumes, and an audience eager for applause, where every smile is rehearsed and every hug is part of the choreography. On the other side of the hall, in the shadows, where the stage light cannot reach, silence reigns. A silence that is not empty, but dense, heavy, charged with unspoken meanings. There, a day rises and sets with the same discreet solemnity as any other, devoid of rituals, imposed songs, or other people's expectations. It is a day that belongs only to oneself and to the soul that inhabits it. I see you, both dancers, each in their own rhythm, their own particular cadence. And I see beyond your masks, for every performance, whether of joy or retreat, is a mask. I see the mask of exuberant joy, painted with the vibrant colors of acceptance, and the mask of calculated indifference, carved in the cold stone of self-protection. Both, however opposite they may seem, hide the same single fundamental truth. Your birthday, this date etched in iron on the calendar of your history, is not about the day your physical body arrived in this world. It is, and always has been, about how you feel in this exact dizzying moment, about being in it. A birthday is a mirror, a ruthless mirror of brutal honesty that time holds before you once a year. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, it doesn't look away. It simply reflects, with surgical precision, the totality of your being. And what it reflects is not just your superficial image. It reflects the sum of all your struggles, the harvest of all your seeds, the echo of all your words. It shows the map of roads not taken, the museum of broken promises, the inventory of what-ifs that haunt the early hours. Some, terrified by the image that is returned to them, a face marked by fatigue, eyes that have lost their sparkle, a posture hunched by the weight of deferred dreams, feel a visceral need to decorate it. They cover it with garlands, colorful balloons, and twinkling lights, hoping that the profusion of ornaments will distract from the raw, true reflection it insists on showing. The party becomes a desperate attempt to mask one's own soul, to shout louder than the voice of dissatisfaction whispering within. The loud music, the forced laughter, everything becomes a barrier of noise to prevent the truth of the mirror from becoming audible. Others, in an equally profound act of self-protection, simply turn it against the wall. They refuse to look. Indifference becomes their shield, silence their fortress. For them, ignoring the mirror is the only way to survive what it might reveal. It's easier to pretend the day doesn't exist than to confront the image of a life that perhaps isn't the one they wanted to live. The fear isn't of seeing a monster, but of seeing oneself, ordinary, neglected, a wasted potential. But the effort is futile, for the reflection isn't on the surface of the glass. It's inside you. It pulses in your veins, reverberates in your chest, waits patiently in the stillness of your mind. You can break all the mirrors in the world, but you can never escape yours. I didn't come here to judge your choice of dance, nor to tell you which choreography is correct. The universe doesn't operate with rights and wrongs, but with causes and consequences. My purpose is different. It's to invite you to be silent, just for a moment, and listen to the music that guides your steps. What is the melody that compels you to seek the center of the illuminated stage? Is it a song of genuine joy? Or is it a funeral march disguised as a samba? A noise to drown out the fear of loneliness and oblivion? And what is the symphony that leads you to take refuge in the shadows? Is it an area of inner peace and contentment? Or is it the melancholy sound of a violin playing the same note as an old wound, a lullaby to keep your deepest pains asleep? This inner orchestra plays endlessly, and its instruments are your memories, your fears, and your hopes. Why do some need a stage, and others need a haven of stillness? The answer, I assure you, is not in the stars, nor in psychology books, nor in the traditions you were taught. The answer is not in the calendar. It resides in the intricate labyrinth of your being, in the dark corridors of your memory, lined with the velvet of good intentions that never saw the light of day, in the locked rooms of your heart, where the echo of unspoken words still reverberates. And that's where we're going, together. I will be your torch in this darkness. I won't show you the way, for each person's path is unique, sacred, and non-transferable. But I will illuminate the walls so you can see the inscriptions your own soul has left along the journey. We will follow the thread of your emotions, decipher the symbols of your dreams, interrogate the ghosts of your past. It will be a descent, sometimes steep and uncomfortable, to the center of yourself. For it is only in the heart of the labyrinth that the truth reveals itself, far from the noise of the world and the opinions of others. This journey requires courage, the courage to see yourself without filters, to forgive yourself without excuses, to accept yourself unconditionally. And the question that will guide us, the enigma we must decipher, is devastatingly simple. What happens when the music stops, when the guests leave, when the lights go out, and the masks finally slip and fall to the floor? When there is nothing left to distract, nothing to perform, nothing to hide. What face will you find in the mirror when we are alone, in the absolute silence of your inner temple? Is it the face of a friend you've neglected for too long? Or that of a stranger staring back at you with accusing eyes? Be prepared. The image that awaits you may shatter the world you knew, dismantle your certainties, and shatter your defenses. But it may also give you the key to building a new one, forged not in illusions, but in the indestructible substance of your naked truth. A world where you no longer need to dance for anyone but yourself. For many, stillness is not a conscious choice, but a scar, a deep, ancient mark left on the skin of the soul by a time when silence was not a refuge, but a response. To understand the geography of this wound, we need to go back. We need to kneel and look into the eyes of the child who still lives within the indifferent adult. Imagine this child, not abstractly, but with all your senses. Feel the fabric of your party outfit, chosen days in advance. See the late afternoon light streaming through the window, painting golden stripes on the floor, each one marking the passage of another minute of waiting. Hear the ticking of the clock on the wall, a sound that doesn't measure time, but hammers it, each second a dull blow to your expectant chest. She waits, her heart beating not to the rhythm of seconds, but to the rhythm of hope, a fragile and desperate melody. He waits for a door that never opens, for a car that never parks, for a phone that insists on remaining silent, an inert plastic object, oblivious to his agony. Disappointment, when it happens once, is an accident. When it happens twice, it's a coincidence. But when it repeats itself, year after year, like an inevitable season of time, it ceases to be an event. It becomes a teacher, and its lessons are engraved in fire. Disappointment, when it becomes chronic, doesn't just hurt, it teaches. It becomes a cruel and relentless master that carves into the soul with an ice chisel a terrible and paralyzing lesson. Not hoping is the only way to avoid being hurt. Hope, that luminous thing that poets celebrate, reveals itself in their classroom as the most dangerous of traps, a lure for suffering. And vulnerability, the courage to keep one's heart open, is presented as foolishness, an invitation to devastation. And so, the child learns. They learn to anticipate absence, to anticipate oblivion, to grow accustomed to the bitter taste of emptiness, And the adult this child becomes is a master in the art of preventative self-sabotage. They learn to disarm their own heart before the world has a chance to do so. Treating a birthday like an ordinary day then becomes much more than a habit. It becomes a shield, a complete suit of armor, forged not in the heat of battle, but in the cold fire of abandonment. Each unfulfilled promise was a hammer blow. Each noted absence was a dip in the icy water of indifference, tempering the metal of their protection. It is the invisible crown of thorns that they themselves, with ritualistic precision, place upon their own heads upon waking that day. They do so that no other crown, made of flowers or affection, can be offered and then cruelly taken away. It's crucial to understand. They don't hate the celebration. Quite the opposite. Somewhere, in the flooded basement of their souls, the child they once were still desperately yearns for it. What they hate, what they fear with a bone-chilling dread, is the echo. The echo of the silence that comes after the music inevitably ends. The party, if they dared to hold it, would become a tribunal. Every empty chair would be proof of their irrelevance. Every message not received would be a verdict of their invisibility. The silence that follows a failed party is infinitely more deafening than the silence of a day that was never intended to be festive. It is the final confirmation, the universe's official stamp on their greatest fear, that of not being important enough to be remembered. And so, they choose preemptive silence. They kill the party before it can be born, so they don't have to deal with its corpse. This armor, so efficiently constructed, has a hidden cost, a clause in the contract you signed without reading. It doesn't just protect you from pain, it isolates you from life. It's an impenetrable fortress, with walls so high that not even sadness can scale them. But the same walls that bar the entrance of enemies also prevent the visits of friends, lovers, spontaneous joy, and genuine surprise. Within its walls, you've created a realm of absolute security, a territory of predictability where nothing bad can happen. But in this sterile realm, nothing new it can happen. Flowers don't grow on soil paved with fear. The sun doesn't warm a heart locked in the dungeon of self-protection. You survived, yes, but surviving isn't living. It's being suspended in a state of emotional hibernation, where the days pass colorlessly, the seasons change meaninglessly, and time becomes a flat, gray river flowing into a sea of indifference. And the seed I speak of, this dormant power, is your true self, the child who didn't die, but was exiled to the darkest corner of this fortified realm. It's your capacity to feel fully, to wonder, to connect. Awakening it isn't an act of kindness, it's an act of rebellion. It's an insurrection against the tyrant you've become, the jailer of your own soul. It means consciously opening a crack in the gate, knowing that, along with the sunlight, the cold wind of vulnerability will also enter. It means risking pain again, not out of naivety, like the child of old, but out of a mature and sovereign choice, the choice for life in its glorious and terrifying totality. And that's why I'm here to tell you, to whisper directly to the wounded child hiding behind this wall. This pain is not your end. It's not your sentence. It's your origin. You believe this wound has weakened you, that it has broken you forever. But you're looking at the map upside down. Every place where you've been hurt, every shard of disappointment that taught you to protect yourself, is also a portal. A sacred place where your greatest weakness can be transmuted into your most indomitable strength. This is the principle of kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold. Kintsugi masters don't hide the cracks. They celebrate them. They understand that the object is more beautiful and more valuable precisely because it was broken. Your wounds are your golden threads. They have given you a depth that the intact will never know. They have given you a radical empathy for the invisible pain of others. They have given you a resilience forged in the highest of temperatures. You are not broken. You are merely asleep, hibernating under the weight of this ancient sadness, a treasure guarded by a dragon of fear. And in this protective slumber, you are guarding the seed of a power you do not yet understand, the power of emotional self-sufficiency, the power to generate your own light, to be the sun of your own system, to validate your own existence. The weight of sadness is not a slab on your grave. It is the dark, fertile earth that has protected this seed for all these years, waiting for the right moment to germinate. The moment is now. The question before us is no longer about the past, not about blaming those who didn't come to the party. The question is about the future. And it is eminently practical, almost architectural. How do we tear down the walls without being buried by the rubble? How do we water this earth with the water of self-compassion instead of the tears of self-pity? How do we awaken this seed with the warmth of acceptance? In short, how do you turn this seed into a forest where you can finally walk freely and in peace? Now, let us step away for a moment from that secret garden where the seed of self-sufficiency awaits, protected by the dark earth of an ancient pain. Let us leave the wounded child in its cocoon of silence, for there is another dancer in this room whose choreography we must decipher. He does not hide in the shadows, quite the opposite. He is center stage, moving under a shower of strobe lights at dizzying speed. He is the man or woman of our time, the architect of a life so congested, so crammed with commitments, goals, and notifications that time itself seems to bend before his schedule. For this soul, the birthday arrives not as a mirror, but as an inconvenience, an untimely reminder in a calendar already bleeding with tasks. There is no room for celebration, not for lack of affection, but for lack of emptiness. Life has become a suitcase he insists on closing, even though it is already bursting at the seams. Each minute is an object to be fitted. Each hour is a compartment to be filled. Celebration would require a pause. An emptying, and emptying, for him, is death. They don't ignore the day out of trauma, but out of inertia. It's the executive who sees the pop-up in the corner of their computer screen and dismisses it with an impatient click in the middle of a video conference in another time zone. It's the mother who reads a friend's congratulations message while supervising her child's homework, responding to a work email, and planning dinner, all simultaneously. It's not that they've forgotten. It's that modern life, this insatiable beast we ourselves have created and fed, has developed a condition I call temporal blindness. The brain, overwhelmed by an incessant bombardment of stimuli and demands, loses the ability to distinguish the sacred from the profane, the milestone from the routine. The days lose their unique texture, their particular color, and merge into a gray, homogeneous mass of productivity. Celebration, a ritual that demands presence, becomes a priceless luxury in an economy that rewards haste. They're not running away from pain. They are running incessantly on a treadmill, with their eyes fixed on a horizon that never approaches. But I ask you, with the calm of someone observing the storm from the eye of the hurricane, what exactly are you running from? If your schedule is a fortress, what is the enemy it is designed to keep out? And if you stopped, just for a second, if the treadmill suddenly shut off, wouldn't you fall to your knees, gasping, to discover that the only pursuer was the echo of your own footsteps? The armor of those who protect themselves from pain is made of silence and indifference. This new dancer's armor is made of noise and activity. But make no mistake, both are armor. Both serve the same fundamental purpose: to avoid encounter, the encounter with the mirror. Those who take refuge in silence fear what the mirror might reveal about their past, about unhealed wounds. Those who take refuge in noise fear what the mirror might reveal about their present, an existential void disguised as success, a profound loneliness masked by a network of superficial contacts. The noise of a busy life is the most perfect lullaby, a constant melody that prevents the soul from waking up to ask the most terrifying question of all. Is this all there is? The busy schedule becomes an alibi, an excuse to avoid having to sit with oneself and admit that, despite all the achievements and all the likes, something fundamental is missing. It is the tyranny of doing over being. You've become such an efficient project manager of your own life that you've forgotten to live it. And here lies the revelation, the turning point in our dance. The multitasking executive and the wounded soul, who seem to inhabit opposite ends of the room, are actually hand in hand, spinning around the same axis of fear. Both are fugitives. One flees the echo of silence, the other, the silence that the echo of noise tries to drown out. One fears the pain of absence, the other fears the absence of meaning. They are prisoners of the same cell, only decorated with different wallpapers. The cell of non-presence, the cell of disconnection from oneself. One disconnected to avoid feeling pain, the other disconnected to avoid feeling nothingness. Both, by refusing to celebrate the day that marks their arrival in this world, are unconsciously declaring that the way they are in it is not worth celebrating. Is the incessant buzzing of your notifications, at their core, so different from the deafening silence that awaits a party that never happens? Isn't your to-do list as complex a maze as that of someone who's lost in the memories of an old disappointment? And isn't your exhaustion, at the end of another productive day, the same exhaustion as that of someone who spent the entire day bearing the weight of an invisible suit of armor? But there is a third door, a third way of dancing, one that transcends both the immobility of pain and the agitation of fear. It is the dance of the sovereign. The sovereign does not ignore his birthday. He absorbs it. He dissolves it into his bloodstream. For him, celebration is not an annual event marked on the calendar. It is a state of being, a daily practice. He does not need a day to feel special, because he cultivates sacredness in every moment. He does not need gifts, because he has learned to gift himself with the only thing that truly matters, his own unshakable presence. He is the wounded child who has learned to lick his wounds and transform poison into medicine. He is the exhausted executive who stepped off the conveyor belt and discovered that the horizon he so desperately sought was beneath his feet. He does not dance for an audience, nor does he run from a ghost. He dances because life itself is music. For him, every sunrise is an invitation. Every breath is a miracle. Every encounter is a celebration. He stripped off his armor, not because he became invulnerable, but because he discovered that true invulnerability lies in the radical acceptance of one's own fragility. He stopped fighting time and learned to float on his river, to see the beauty in every bend, every rapid, every backwater. This is the freedom that awaits you beyond the walls of pain and noise. The freedom to not have to prove anything to anyone, not even yourself. The freedom to simply be without apologies, without embellishment. The freedom to look in the mirror any day of the year and see neither the scars of the past nor the emptiness of the present, but the infinite radiance of a soul that has finally returned home. But how do you reach this shore, this state of silent sovereignty? How do you learn to navigate the river of time instead of drowning in it or trying, futilely, to row against its current? And what happens when life, in its unpredictable fury, with its storms and tides, tries to drag you back into the maelstrom? You ask how to reach this shore, this state of silent sovereignty. You want the map, the instruction manual, the golden stone path that leads to the castle of self-sufficiency. And I tell you, the answer is not a map, but a compass. The map describes a territory that belongs to another. The compass points in a direction that only you can navigate. And this compass has only one north, a single unshakable direction, inward. The journey to sovereignty is not a conquest, a climb. It is an excavation. It is the archaeology of your own soul. You don't need to build anything new. You need to unearth what has always been there, buried under layers and layers of social debris, of other people's expectations, of fears you were taught to call your own. Society, from your first cry, has trained you to be a beggar. A beggar for attention, for approval, for validation. She placed a small bowl in your hands and taught you to hold it out, smiling, in exchange for coins of affection, crumbs of gratitude. The birthday greeting became one of those coins. The party, a banquet offered by others. The gifts, material proof that you were not forgotten. And you learned to measure your worth by the weight of that bowl at the end of the day. The sovereign is the one who, in an act of supreme rebellion, broke the bowl. Not with anger, but with clarity. He realized that thirst is not quenched with raindrops collected in a bowl, but with water from a well he dug himself. Sovereignty, therefore, begins with a declaration of energetic independence. It is the visceral understanding that the source of your validation cannot, under any circumstances, be outside of you. It is an internal sun. Most people live in a planetary system where they are the Earth, desperately revolving around multiple suns. The sun of parental approval, the sun of boss recognition, the sun of friends' admiration, the sun of strangers' envy. Your emotional temperature, your internal climate, depends on the light these external suns decide, or not, to grant you. If they shine, you feel warm and alive. If they hide behind clouds of indifference, you freeze. The sovereign performs a Copernican revolution. He withdraws from the center of this chaotic system and ignites his own sun. He becomes the star of his own universe. And from that moment on, the light that comes from outside is welcomed, appreciated, and can even be celebrated like the beauty of the aurora borealis. But it is no longer necessary. His existence no longer depends on it. He generates his own heat. He creates his own light. And that's why he doesn't need a day on the calendar to feel alive. He is the very source of life. Think of the old carpenter in his workshop, isolated from the world. Dust dances in shafts of light streaming through a high window. The smell is of wood, varnish, and patience. He runs his fingers over a piece of oak, not reading a blueprint, but listening to a story the tree tells him. His tools are not instruments of force, but extensions of his intention. Each cut, each notch, each sanding stroke is an act of meditation, a silent dialogue between his soul and the soul of the wood. He doesn't work for display, for sale, for the praise of a client. He works for the wood. He works for the integrity of the chair or table that is being borne under his hands. His celebration doesn't happen when the piece is sold. It happens in each perfect fit, in each harmonious curve, in each grain of wood that he has managed to honor and reveal. He is a man who has ignited his inner sun. His validation emanates from the very act of creation, from the silent excellence of his craft. Whether the whole world applauded his work or ignored it, the quality of his dedication wouldn't change one iota. He found sacredness in the process, not the result. This is the dance of the sovereign. It's finding the divine in the ordinary, the celebration in the routine, the meaning in the act. And what happens when life, in its fury, tries to drag you back into the whirlwind? What happens when the storm of doubt, fear, or loneliness rages outside the workshop? The sovereign is not a Superman. He is not immune to pain. The difference is that his house is built on rock, not sand. The house built on the sand of external validation crumbles at the first strong wind of criticism or forgetfulness. The sovereign's house, built on the rock of self-acceptance, may sway. The windows may rattle. The tiles may fly. But its foundation remains intact. When loneliness knocks on his door, he doesn't run to his phone, to social media, in search of a noisy distraction. He invites it in. He pours it a cup of tea. And he listens to it. For he knows that loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the absence of himself. And the storm, however frightening, is merely a reminder to return home, to the still center of his being, to the fire that burns in his inner hearth, the one that no rain can extinguish. He learned that true strength is not the ability to avoid the waves, but the ability to surf them. His stability comes not from the absence of chaos, but from the presence of a center. Here, however, lies the greatest and most surprising revelation. The path to this inner strength is not paved with acquisitions, but with renunciations. The great illusion of our culture is that happiness is an act of addition. Adding more money, more friends, more followers, more experiences, more knowledge. The path of the sovereign is the via negativa. It is the art of subtraction. You don't need to become more. You need to become less. Less reactive to the opinions of others. Less dependent on applause to feel competent. Less attached to a self-image that must be constantly defended. Less anxious about a future that doesn't exist, and less embittered by a past that cannot be changed. It is a process of shedding oneself, of removing, layer by layer, all the skins that are not yours. The skin of the good son, the skin of the successful professional, the skin of the spiritual person, the skin of the misunderstood rebel. Each of these skins comes with a script, a set of expectations, a beggar's bowl of a different shape. Stripping them off is an act of immense courage, because underneath, what remains is your essential nakedness. A nakedness that can, at first, seem frighteningly vulnerable. It's the sculptor's journey. He adds nothing to the block of marble. He only removes what isn't the statue. His masterpiece is already there, waiting to be freed from the excess, the superfluous. Your soul, your sovereignty, is already a masterpiece. It's simply imprisoned within the block of marble of your limiting beliefs, your social conditioning, your invisible loyalties to scripts you didn't write. Each act of self-knowledge is a precise hammer blow. Each moment of presence is a polishing. You're not building yourself, you're revealing yourself. But how does this alchemy work? How does one learn the art of shedding skin without bleeding to death? What is the first layer to be removed? And what tool do you use to do it? And, most importantly, what exactly do you discover when the last veil is torn away and you finally face yourself, naked and undisguised, for the first time? You stand at the edge of the abyss, the marble block before you, and you ask for the tools. You want to know how this alchemy works, how to remove the skin without bleeding out, what lies in the final nakedness. The thirst for this answer is the first sign that the statue within the stone has begun to move. The tool you seek is not found in any ancient doctrine or futuristic manual. It has always been with you, but you have been taught to use it in reverse. The tool is your own attention. Not the attention that fragments into 1,000 tasks, not the attention that chases the next stimulus, but mindfulness, silent and sharp as an obsidian scalpel. It is the ability to observe your own inner universe without interfering with it, to watch the parade of your thoughts, emotions, and sensations like one watches clouds crossing the sky. You are not the cloud. You are the sky. This is the first and most revolutionary of discoveries. Practice is not an act of force, but of stillness. It's not a battle, but a surrender to what is. You don't fight your demons. You shine a light so bright that they reveal themselves as mere shadows. And what is the first layer to be removed with this scalpel of light? It's not the ego, that grandiose and misunderstood word. It's something much more subtle, much closer, so intimate you believe it's your own breath. The first layer is the inner narrator, that incessant voice in your head that never shuts up. The voice that comments, judges, compares, plans, regrets, and explains every second of your existence. It's the announcer of a soccer game that only happens in your mind. It describes the goal, criticizes the pass, predicts the next play. But it's not the player. It's just the sound. You've fused so much with this voice that you believe it's you. I'm thinking, you say. But that's a lie. You're not thinking. The thoughts are happening, and you are the consciousness that perceives them. Shedding the first layer is the act of creating a minimal distance, a millimeter of space, between you as the observer and the narrator voice. You don't try to silence it. That would be like trying to flatten the ocean with an iron. You just listen to it, but you listen to it in a new way. You listen to it like someone listening to a neighbor's radio, a background sound that doesn't require your participation. And in that small space, in that crack of silence, the alchemy begins. Learning the art of undressing without bleeding is understanding that the blood, the pain, doesn't come from the removal of skin, but from your resistance to it. When you stop identifying with the narrator, the emotions they generated to keep you captive begin to emerge in their purest form. Anxiety, fear, sadness, anger. Before, when these emotions arose, the narrator immediately created a story. I'm anxious about that meeting. I'm sad because so-and-so disappointed me. The story gave the emotion a justification, a script, and trapped you in it. Now, without the story, the emotion emerges as pure energy in your body. A pressure in your chest, a lump in your throat, a heat in your stomach. Bleeding is the panic that arises when you feel this raw energy and have no story to explain it. The secret to not fading is, paradoxically, allowing yourself to bleed. It's having the courage to feel the anxiety as a pure vibration in your chest, without the story of the meeting. It's feeling sadness like a wave of weight on your shoulders, without the story of disappointment. You anchor your attention on the physical sensation and breathe through it. And then, the miracle. Emotion, when not fueled by a story, has a very short shelf life. It arises, peaks, and dissolves, like a wave crashing on the shore. You survived. And in surviving, you realized that you are not your emotion. You are the safe space where the emotion can occur and pass away. The skin comes off not because you ripped it off, but because the body beneath it stopped fighting. And what do you discover when the last veil is torn? What remains when the narrator's voice becomes a distant whisper and emotions pass through you without possessing you? What you find in your essential nakedness is not a new identity, not an improved, enlightened, or superior self. What you find is silence, but not an empty, dead silence. It is a pulsating, living silence, pregnant with potential. It is the primordial space before words. It is the blank canvas before painting. In this silence, for the first time, you experience the world directly, without the filter of commentary. You taste the coffee, and for an instant, there is only the taste, the warmth, and the aroma, before the voice emerges to label, "This coffee is good." You hear the music, and for a moment, there is only the vibration, the melody entering your cells, before the voice says, "I like this band." You look into another person's eyes, and for a split second, there is only a meeting of universes, a silent exchange of presence before the mind begins to judge, to compare, to desire. This is your nakedness. It is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything. It is the raw, immediate, glorious, and frightening reality. You discover that yourself was not an entity, but an activity, a habit of thinking. And when the habit quiets, what remains is not nothingness, it is being. This journey of excavation, of stripping oneself bare, fundamentally redefines the notion of celebration. The beggar celebrates when his bowl is full. The sovereign celebrates the well, the inexhaustible source within himself. The need for a birthday party, with its external validation, its gifts, and its applause, reveals itself as an echo of the era of begging. It is the attempt to fill the bowl for one day, to forget that it will be empty the next. The sovereign, the one who has found the living silence within himself, does not need an event to celebrate life. Life itself has become the event. Every breath, observed in silence, is a celebration. Every heartbeat, felt without comment, is a miracle. He does not dismiss his birthday. He sees it for what it truly is. One more rotation of the earth around the sun, just like every other day. And this realization does not sadden him. It liberates him. It frees him from the pressure of having to be happy, from the anxiety of having to be celebrated, from the disappointment of not being remembered. He is the carpenter in his workshop. The joy is not in the recognition of the chair, but in the act of planing the wood, in the sound of the tool, in the devoted presence of the moment. He is the celebration itself. But this revelation, this encounter with naked being, is not a final destination. It is not a permanent state of blissful peace. You have unearthed the statue, but now you must learn to live with it in the world. You have found silence, but the world is a place of noise. How do you bring this sacred nakedness to the marketplace? How do you keep the fire of your inner hearth burning when the storm of everyday life, with its demands, conflicts, and distractions, threatens to extinguish it at every moment? How, in short, can you be the sky when life's clouds become a hailstorm? You ask how to bring sacred nakedness to the marketplace. How to be the sky when the clouds turn to hail. You have found silence, but now you must learn to be silence amidst the noise. This is not a matter of technique, it is a matter of art, the art of living. You don't protect a flame in the midst of a storm by building ever higher walls around it. The wind will always find a crack. You protect the flame by becoming the flame itself, a presence so incandescent that the storm, as it approaches, becomes mere vapor. Living in the world after having found inner vastness is not an act of defense, but of emanation. You do not close yourself off from the world. You open yourself in such a radically new way that the world, with its chaos and fury, no longer finds in you the old doors and windows through which it used to invade. Your sovereignty is not a castle to be defended. It is an atmosphere you breathe and exhale, a frequency that reorganizes the space around you. The first practice of this art is not mental, but profoundly physical. It is anchoring in the body. The inner narrator, the ancient tyrant, will try at all costs to regain his throne, and his main weapon is time. It will drag you into the swamp of the past, with its regrets and guilt, or cast you into the abyss of anxiety about the future, with its fears and expectations. The body, however, knows only one time: the now. It is your anchor in the irrefutable reality of the present moment. When the noise of the market becomes deafening, when the voices of doubt and criticism echo around you, your practice is not to fight them in the arena of the mind. That is a trap. It is empowering the enemy. Your practice is to deliberately withdraw your attention from the mental battlefield and immerse it entirely in the sensations of your body. Feel the contact of your feet with the ground. Feel the air flowing in and out of your nostrils. Feel the texture of your clothes against your skin. Feel the pulse of your own blood. This seemingly simple act is a revolution. It instantly cuts off the flow of energy that fuels the mental drama. You don't solve the problem. You dissolve into the problem. You return home to the only real place that exists, your body, in this very moment. The hailstorm may still rage outside, but you are no longer lost in it. You are in the eye of the storm, in the silent center of your being. The second practice is the transition from inner stillness to action in the world. It's the art of the sacred no. To keep your inner hearth burning, you need to stop allowing everyone to throw garbage and cold water on it. The sovereign is not a passive, ethereal figure. He is a relentless guardian of your own energy. You learned as a child that saying no is selfish, rude, and an act of rejection. I tell you, the no born of fear or anger is an act of war. But the no born of a deep and unshakable yes to your own peace, to your own integrity, is the most sacred act of self-love there is. You don't say no to others, you say yes to yourself. You stop frequenting places that drain your energy. You stop having conversations that pollute your mind. You stop engaging in dynamics that disrespect your silence. And you do this not with arrogance, but with the serene calm of a gardener weeding to protect his flowers. At first, the world will protest. People, accustomed to having unrestricted access to their territory, will call your new limit selfishness. Let them call it that. They are merely reacting to the loss of power over you. Your loyalty is no longer to their expectations. Your loyalty is to the statue you so bravely unearthed from the marble. The unholy is the moat you dig around your castle, not to keep the world out, but to ensure it enters only as a guest, not as an invader. The third and highest practice is emotional alchemy. There will be times when the hailstorm hits you hard. Criticism, betrayal, loss, injustice. In these moments, the anchor will seem distant, and the unsacred will arrive too late. The poison has already been injected. The emotional reaction, the anger, the pain, the resentment, will explode within you. The beggar, at this point, has two options: suppress the poison, pretending nothing happened, allowing it to silently corrode his insides, or spit the poison back into the world, perpetuating the cycle of violence. The sovereign alchemist chooses a third path. He collects the poison in a sacred vessel, which is his own mindfulness, and studies it. He does not identify with the anger. He observes it as pure energy, a fire burning in his solar plexus. He does not drown in the pain. He investigates the pain with the curiosity of a scientist, noticing how it manifests in his body. And in doing so, he discovers something miraculous. He discovers that the external poison only has power over him because it activates an older poison already within him. Someone's criticism only hurts because it touches on an insecurity already within you. Rejection only devastates you because it echoes an old wound of abandonment. The external aggressor, therefore, ceases to be an enemy. He becomes a messenger, an involuntary and often cruel messenger, but a messenger nonetheless. He came, with his hail, to show you exactly where your roof still leaks. He came to point out the next layer of skin to peel away. And in that moment, gratitude, paradoxical as it may seem, replaces resentment. You use the other person's poison to create your own antidote, to heal yourself on an even deeper level. You didn't just survive the storm, you used its strength to strengthen your foundations. And so, the journey is complete. The celebration of a birthday, that small island of meaning in a vast ocean of days, reveals itself in its ultimate truth. For the wounded being, it was a day of fear. For the busy being, a day of inconvenience. For the awakening being, it becomes unnecessary, not out of contempt, but out of overabundance. Why celebrate life in a single day, when life itself has become an uninterrupted celebration? The true celebration is not one of balloons and gifts. It is the silent celebration of feeling your feet on the ground. It is the celebration of breathing consciously. It is the fierce joy of protecting your peace with a sacred no. It is the transformative power of looking into the darkness, both without and within, and not retreating. You no longer need the world to congratulate you on being born. Your own being, in its majestic silence, whispers at every moment, "Congratulations on being alive, on being present, on coming home." This is not the end of a script. It's the beginning of your practice. It's an invitation for you to break your begging bowl, once and for all. For you to stop waiting for rain and start digging your own well. The water is there. It always has been. Sovereignty is not a destination to be reached. It's a territory to be claimed. It's yours by birthright. If every word I've spoken today has resonated in some secret chamber of your soul, if it has lit a spark in the center of your being, then honor that call. Enjoy this video, not as an applause for me, but as a yes to yourself. Comment below, even anonymously, sharing not an opinion, but a fragment of your own journey, so that others know they are not alone in this excavation. And finally, subscribe to the channel. Not to follow me, but to follow the trail of bread that leads back to your own home, to your own throne, to the silent power that has awaited you since the beginning of time. The dance is over. Now your life begins.